The biggest, most obvious one is the founding of Black Pearl. It wasn't just a matter of my own personal perseverance in overcoming the feedback that my race and gender was the one barrier to me, achieving gainful employment or success in my field. The timing was also really unfortunate to found an organization. So if you remember 2007, 2008, the financial crisis hit, and banks were collapsing and all kinds of organizations were collapsing because the money just dried up, and the credit of the world was just terrible, and everything just collapsed. Everything collapsed. And so what a great time to be starting an organization. Well, as it turned out, the timing for us was very fortuitous. We had secured one of the state of Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. We received a $200,000 grant from them. And it was approved. Yeah, it was approved just before the state shut down every grant approval from that point on, because they just needed to figure out, the state of the world and what was going on, and to make sure they could fund whatever they were. So we got one of the last ones. And so we just slipped in. And so at a time when everybody else at arts organizations wise were canceling concerts or even shutting their doors permanently, we were open for business, and I'm paying well, which is one of my core principles for my musicians is I'm going to pay you for your time and respect your talent. And we paid well and we paid on time. And so when they were losing work, I was offering people work. And so we were really able to attract really the finest and most wonderful musicians, just and human beings that we could find. And so basing our future reputation on the fact that Black Pearl is a business of integrity, that we pay our musicians, we pay them on time, we pay them in full, and that as the orchestra has done better financially, so have the musicians, was super important. And so overcoming that obstacle just through personal perseverance, but also just the financial times and where we were at, and making sure that the principles that I wanted to instill in my orchestra were the principles that I live by, of transparency, respect, and joy, and excellence and diversity. That really hewing to those principles, no matter what sorts of obstacles the external world may provide, has stood Black Pearl in good stead. Fast forward now to the pandemic. Again, organizations struggling, shutting down. We through the excellence of our work, we've had I think an NEA grant every year that we've been eligible. So I think after 3 years, you have to be in existence for 3 years or show programming for 3 years before you can even apply. And I think we've won an NEA grant every year that we've been eligible. So we have multiple NEA grants, and I've read many grants for the NEA, and have a great relationship with them. And so we were granted one of the very few organizations that were granted an emergency grant at the very beginning of the pandemic. And then we went on to receive another larger grant, again, a competitive grant as well. We also were able to receive our first investment from the Mellon Foundation, which was our major first foundation gift. And so even during the pandemic, because of the work that we had been doing, because of the principles that we were displaying, and because of the impact we'd had on the field, other organizations have copied our programming and our ideas. We're the only organization of any kind that has ever won 3 Night Arts Challenge grants. Some have won 1, some have won 2, but we are the only organization in the country to ever win it every 3 years that it has been granted. And so we have a formidable reputation, both as an arts organization and from a social justice standpoint. And so we were able to see the benefit of that with this additional investment in our mission, both as artists and as crusaders for social justice, really come to flowering. And we were able to come out of the pandemic in a far stronger financial position than we went into it, which is kind of counterintuitive to what would happen. But I think having an organization that is based on, American democratic values, and really embodies those values in the way that it deals with its own people internally, and the way that those people then radiate that out to the community. I think that was our success model, was a values-based organization, executing those values, embodying those values. That has paid off, despite, how the reason for why the organization was founded in the first place.